When you're loading your magazines, do you always load with a speed loader or do you always load freehand? Or is there another option? Let's talk about that. Hey everybody, this is Mike with Personal Protection Academy. Got a question for you. When you load your mags, do you have a preference or do you have a policy? When you're loading your empty mags, do you always load them freehand or do you use a speed loader like this Ooplula speed loader, which is my favorite? Does it matter? So here's the thought process. Some folks like to load simply freehand, and what you're doing when you're loading freehand, of course, for those of you that may be newer to shooting, you're going to take your ammo and you're going to push it down past the feed lips and you're going to push it in by hand. You're going to take your support hand and you're going to help it because round on round is difficult. Push it down past the feed lips and in. Do you always do it by hand? Those that always do it by hand usually do it for the simple process of when I'm on the street, I'm not going to have a speed loader, so I need to load it by hand. It's not a bad philosophy. But do you use a speed loader, which makes your life a lot easier and helps save your fingers? With these, this one in particular, you go in, down, you insert your round, and you release, and it's in, down, insert, release, and it's in. So you can imagine if you're loading hundreds or thousands of rounds in a day, you may want one of these Ooplula speed loaders or another brand. But what about the philosophy of I'm not going to have a speed loader with me on the street in a gunfight? Okay, that's fair. Here's what I do and here's what I tell my students to do. I want you to prove to me that you can load by hand. In an emergency, you've got to be able to do it. If you drop your magazine or you drop, your ammo falls out of your magazine, you've got to be able to do it by hand. Once you've proven to me you can do it by hand, dear Lord, baby Jesus, let's graduate onto a speed loader. I'm a competitive shooter, and in a match, very typical, I'll be loading 300 rounds in the morning. I'll have loaded a couple hundred rounds at night. If I'm working on the range all day long, I could load hundreds, maybe even 1,000 rounds in a day. And I like my delicate little fingers. I want to save them if I can. So here's my personal philosophy and the one that I share with my students. Please go ahead and use a speed loader. It's easier. I call it the magic box. It really saves time and saves pain on your fingers. But you better also make sure you know how to load your magazines freehand, because in an emergency, this isn't going to be there. Keep practicing this one and use this one a lot. That's our thoughts. What are your thoughts? All right, so leave the comments down below and we'll see you on the range.